Hey folks, welcome back to the channel. Today we're on the 2022 SeaDoo Switch. We're gonna bash our boat up against the dock so you don't have to. Stay with us. Oh. We're gonna approach this dock here at low tide. If you're boating in a saltwater environment, you're gonna see lots of oysters and barnacles and stuff like that. So you come into a dock like this can be a little scary. You don't want to scratch up your brand new boat. See these oyster shells right here? We're gonna rub our boat right up against that. Don't recommend that you do this. Later today, we're gonna show you how to prevent this or how to cover it up if you have scratched your boat. See right here, these things are razor sharp. It's like rubbing your boat up against a knife. So we're just gonna kind of crash it in. See how it chipped off there? Yeah, you don't want to do this to your boat. These oyster shells, they're just like knives. Oh, that's awful. We just took that barnacle off with that hit. Ah, deep right there. Look at the deep gash. Don't try this at home, folks. So obviously what we've just done, we would recommend that you don't do this at home. If you have damaged your hull, if you've scratched it up, it's very difficult to repair. You're not gonna go take it to the average body shop and have this repaired. So with Reef Wrap and Impact Graphics, we're gonna show you how to either cover it up, or if it's in place before you scratch it, you'll never see the scratch to begin with. Stay with us. Well, just getting back to the shop after bashing our boat into a bunch of oyster shells. Let's look at the damage. We've got some really deep gouging here on the side of these pontoons. You know, these pontoons, they're flat-sided. They don't protrude outward at the rub rail where it kind of protects the pontoon. So this just kind of hits whatever's down low. So we've got deep gouging all in here. Some of the scratches we had before, but today we really put some deep gouges in here. Lots of cuts. We're gonna show you how to use Reef Wrap and cover all this up. Let's show you what it looks like installed. Reef Wrap is essentially like a Rhino liner for the side of your boat's pontoons here. And this is what it looks like installed. Using a special adhesive that's made for keel shields, it bonds to your hull permanently and gives you a really super tough armor on the outside. Here's a close-up. You're gonna bring the camera in tight. Really tough finish, really super aggressive press and stick adhesive. This is a PSA. Feels a lot like reef. That's what we call it, Reef Wrap. When you receive your Reef Wrap kit from JetBoatPilot, it's going to come basically in panels like you see here. The adhesive is built into the back, it's peel and stick. Really super aggressive, but in order for it to stick properly, I'm going to follow these steps to ensure that it stays bonded permanently. First off, scrub your hull using a stiff bristle nylon brush and some sort of cleaner. Doesn't matter what you use, just get it nice and clean. If you have existing damage, get you a razor blade and carve away any burrs or chips, things that might cause the Reef Wrap to have difficulty to adhere flat. Just make sure you flatten out any rough areas. Come behind that with acetone. Be very thorough with this. Remove any sort of oils, chemicals. You want to use a terry cloth towel or a microfiber towel for this, preferably white. We're going to use black today. Do it in an open air environment so you're not breathing the fumes in. Paper towels tend to leave behind little particulate that we don't like to have to deal with, so that's why we've chosen this microfiber. Be very liberal with this stuff. I'd recommend a big can. Just want to make sure that any sort of mold release compounds or any sort of oils or whatever is off of this hull, because the stick and the bond with this Reef Wrap is going to be contingent upon a really good, nice, clean, oil-free surface. This is super critical. Primer 94. We want to really liberally coat the entire area that we're going to install our Reef Wrap with Primer 94 and let that dry. We're not going to be applying the primer onto the colored surfaces, but only on the black surfaces. It's best to have a little brush like this so we can get into these big areas and do it broad and quick. Paying particular attention to the edges, because the edges are where we have the water lock. You can be liberal with this stuff, and it does dry clear. If you have gotten it in a place that maybe you didn't want it to be in that location, then you can remove this stuff with alcohol or acetone. So starting with your first panel, these will be numbered in production. You'll see that they actually match the shape of the boat, so it's pretty easy to kind of align them. Keep your razor blade handy. It might be helpful to get this paper backing or this plastic backing kind of removed. Once we get this first corner exposed, we're going to align the remainder of the pad in place, and we left about 1/8 of an inch offset away from each edge. So when you align it, just make sure there's roughly 1/8 inch offset from the edge of the pad to the edge of the area that you're adhering to. Once you feel like you've got that on all sides, press the portion where the adhesive is exposed and press it firmly. Reach under, and this stuff's not going to stretch much, so you don't have to worry too much about stretching it, but just squeegee the air out's the big thing. Pull a little bit of the liner off, come down and stroke out any air. Same thing, just stroke out the air. Press the edges firmly all the way around the perimeter. You really don't want any water getting underneath. If you ever do get any water underneath, a little dab of super glue will tack it back down. Also, it's a good idea not to touch the adhesive with your bare fingers, because bare fingers are going to have oil on them, and you don't want to get oils on the adhesive. I always pull back about 3 or 4 inches. When I start my alignment, I'll align the front, but I'll also align the back. Lightly tack the front edge just to make sure that it does look good. And if it does, I'll go ahead and press firmly. Remove the film. I'll come back and align once again. It's just really critical to take your time, make sure everything's kind of lining up. Squeegeeing the air out as you come back. Try to maintain that same distance from the edge of the panel to the edge of your pontoon all the way down. Makes a nice professional look, like it was done well. This last one, really focus on that corner so that my install looks nice. All right, pressing firmly all the way around. Take the time. If you've got a roller, you can roll this stuff, but just want to make sure to press all these edges all the way around. Don't want water intrusion. All right, those 2 panels are done. Moving on to the next. On this section, we're going to align with the sticker above, as well as this edge here. We use this little notch as our guide to get started. We'll do this bend last. We'll come down, flatten all this flat area first. Press it firmly. If you do this right, you won't trap a bunch of air bubbles, and you won't find that there's buckles in it. Flatten, and then come around and do this complex geometry last. Press firm. This is going to be submerged back in here because the boat sits low. This small panel here has a little curve on the back, and that curve aligns to this curve. So just make sure you have the orientation right. Once again, in the flat, flatten this out first. Then we're going to come around this complex geometry second. I always kind of start with the top edge. Press the air bubbles out and press it firm. Again, this is submerged. See this little notch in the front of this little pad here? There's a bump up and there's a little notch. This little notch follows this little corner right here. So we're going to start on the front. We're going to work our way to that back complex geometry there. I like to have the same spacing all the way down, so it aligns so the spacing is equal, but you don't want to be directly on top of that bend radius there. You want to be just below it. Once you're firmly in place, remove the paper. Stroke out the air and finish it off like that. Firmly press the edges once again. This is submerged and this one will be underwater most. So by doing this, you're going to ensure that it stays tacked down, does not lift, and can take the force of an impact as well. Well, now that it's installed, let's go back out to the dock and hit it again, see what happens. All right, we're back out on the water now, just installed Reef Wrap. right, destructive testing done. Let's see how it looks. We can see lots of little shell fragments inside the material. Next, we're gonna spray it and we're gonna scrub it with a brush and show you how it comes out after we clean it. So this spot took a really deep gash, but you can see after I cleaned it up, it's really not visible that there was any damage to the actual reef wrap because it looks so granular, the scratches just don't really appear. We can feel, but it just doesn't really appear. Let's pull it back out in the daylight and take a look at it on the natural sunlight. Yeah, because of this texture all being broken up and being uneven, you really just don't see it. It looks practically new. We were really aggressive with this collision today, grinding the barnacles off of the side of the piling with the reef wrap. So obviously not something you would intentionally want to do, but I think we've shown if you add the reef wrap to the side of your boat, it's going to protect the pontoons. Or if you have damage, obviously you saw, it covers up that damage and makes it look new. So if you have a panel that's damaged really badly and you want to replace it, just peel it off, add a new panel, and you're right back to business again looking like a brand new boat. Check this video out. This is about impact graphics. It's going to give you a lot of protection on the side of your boat, plus give you a lot of extra color options.